All right.
Make sure I got it turned.
All right. What's going on, good people, man? It's your boy LaCheston, man. We're back for another episode of the What You Mean podcast, where it is a What's New segment, man. And as you already know, we've been dedicating our June segments of What's New to some dope dads out there in the world that I know personally or that Kim knows, man. We just want them to come in and talk the perspective of fatherhood, entrepreneurship, careers, balancing life, marriages, and all the other good stuff. So I did that lucky thing that I tell y'all I normally do, which is shoot out a text message and see what I'm going to get. You know, it's kind of like throwing out a fishing pole, you know what I'm saying, with a bait on it and hoping that you're able to pull in that big fish. And I was able to pull in a big fish on this evening, man. My frat brother, man, that has taught me a great deal, been a great supporter throughout my life, is going to be sitting with us on tonight to drop some gem to you guys, man. So without further ado, again, I'm your host, LaCheston, and you're sitting with?
Dr. Demel Coleman.
All right. So what I want you to do real quick is just give a general introduction of yourself, man. Tell the people where they can find you at, kind of sort of what your practice is as far as, you know, the doctor stuff goes and all the other good stuff. We're going to get to the fatherhood stuff in just a second. But, you know, for the people that are watching, man, I want them to make sure that they're able to go and find you. And if there's anything that, you know, anybody that come on this platform, but there's something that people can support, we want to make sure that they can support whatever you got going on.
Well, as far as my job goes, I do geriatric psychiatry. So
Okay.
I work with old people. Mostly dementia is what I deal with on a regular basis.
Okay.
So I also deal in an outpatient clinic in Moundville with poor and kind of disenfranchised people. So I do outpatient clinic there on Tuesdays as well.
Okay.
So that's kind of my professional side. For as fun stuff, I tutor at a school here in Birmingham area for a little fun. So on Wednesdays and Thursdays, I go tutor it for their after school program.
Okay, cool. Dope. So I know that I reached out to you, you know what I'm saying, and simply asked about, I was like, hey, man, Demel, this is what I got going on, my podcast, man. I don't know if you know, could slide through, and you definitely dropped some gems on me on the phone. I was like, bro, hold on. Just say that for the podcast, because I know that, you know, ultimately I still haven't had the opportunity to become like an official biological father yet, you know what I'm saying, but the way that you were intertwining, you know, how you raise your kids in your household with the still traditional ways mixed in with the still up-to-date times, and this is what I'm presenting in my household and my kids know. I just thought that there would have been some great things to actually talk about on the platform. So for those that don't know, you know, Dr. Demel Coleman is actually married. So how long have you been married?
23 years now.
23 years, cuz I can't even keep a woman for 3 years. And you've been married for 23 of them things. That's what's up, man. And how many kids you got?
We got 3. My oldest, actually, I'm going on 24 years. My oldest is 21. He's in the Air Force. His second year in the Air Force right now. So I'm very proud of him. My middle child, she's a freshman at Penn State. She plays softball. She's on softball scholarship there. Okay. So she just finished up her freshman year. Very proud of her. She finished with a 3.49 GPA for the year.
What was her study?
She's doing business.
Nice.
Business administration, sustainable energy is kind of where she wants to lean.
Okay.
And so I got a junior right now. She's being recruited for volleyball. So she's got over 4.0 GPA. So she's a little.
So where do kids getting these athletic genes from?
Well, one of the things I'll tell you is when I was brought up, I grew up in the country.
What's the country, man?
Jackson, Alabama. And if you really, that's kind of big city for us. But if you really want to know where I'm from, it's a little place called Salipta.
Yeah, I don't know what that's it. I don't know what that's it, cuz.
Yeah, but everybody's related.
Is it on the map? Or you got to zoom in?
You're going to zoom in.
Okay.
There's nothing in Salipta. Actually, when I was a little kid, we used to go to a man's house to get our mail.
Really?
That's how country it is. Yeah, bro. So straight country. So we stayed on the same land. I could probably spit at my grandmother's house because we lived in my aunt's trailer. So we kind of start off behind the 8 ball in that regards.
Got you.
And so my mom, because she got pregnant in high school.
Okay.
And she dropped out, and you know she had to take care of me. So one of the things she did, she pushed education.
Right.
She's like, you know, you're not going to be like me.
Right.
And one of the things my father told me one day, we was digging our own septic tank. I don't know if you're from the country, know anything about that. But it was red clay. So you had to water it, get the pick, hit it, get the shovel. So that's how I spent a good bit of my time in the summer.
Got you.
In the middle school. And so one time I was just complaining because everybody else shooting ball. And my dad got me out here digging this big old hole.
Right.
So he came home, and I was mad as all get out, man. And he sat there. He was smoking a cigarette. He looked at me. He said, I get it. I'd be mad as hell, too. He said, but let me be real with you. I love you.
Right.
but I shouldn't have had you until I could afford you.
Wow.
He's like, so if you don't want to be in this situation that I'm in right now, focus on your grades, get your education first. And that's kind of what stuck with me.
Got you.
So when I went to college and I got done, I'm like, you know what? He dropped some gems on me. So I need to be growing as a person. So I didn't know anything about investments and stuff like that and this whole issue of different things you can do with your kids. I learned that in medical school, hanging around people who had wealth and who came from different backgrounds. And so basically it was just more of a case of I've always been a learner. So I looked at these people and said, okay, how did you do this? What did you do? So I did that with my kids.
Wow.
So when my kids were young, we played classical music because there's stuff out there about classical music. So I played classical music when they were in the belly. I read to them while they were in the belly.
You know what? I just talked about that with one of the moms that we had on here. I was like, and this is exactly what I said. Actually, it was not one of the moms. It was actually a young lady in here that was talking to us about hypnotherapy.
Oh, yeah.
And when she was talking to us about hypnotherapy, she was telling us about how the subconscious works.
That's right.
And she was telling us about how kids start taking things in while they're inside the womb.
That's right.
of the mother. And I said, so is that why the bougie folks get them Billy headphones and put it on their stomach and play that classical music? She said that's exactly why they do that.
That's exactly why.
Wow.
And so I read to my kids. I read to them all the time. So my kids, when they get in high school, they'll tell you, it's a rule in my house. When you get in high school, I've evaluated you throughout the years since you've been in my house. So based on your weaknesses and your strengths, I come up with a reading list.
Right.
So each one of my first two kids, they had a reading list. They had to read 12 books, a book a month, but their senior year up through to they, wherever they went. Mm-hmm. So, and throughout the years, I pushed reading. We pushed education in my home.
Got you. That's what's up. So talk to me about the balance of just like, in the 23 going on 24 years of marriage and raising 3 kids, and then with you being a medical professional, especially with, given how COVID turned the world upside down, you know what I'm saying? Like how does, and in this podcast and on this Father's segment, we're speaking to fathers that can possibly relate or fathers that can see, dang, Dr. Demel Coleman went through this too. So, and this is how we handle it. So everything that I ask, I'm asking it in a form where we can kind of sort of maybe like get some advice or allow somebody to know, like, you're not the only one going through this or dealing with this. Like, this is a real platform. Like I tell people all the time, like, I'm not no millionaire. I don't got 1 million people listening to my podcast right now. I don't got 1 million subscribers. I'm a real person. I work a real job. I come in and work another real job in this studio. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm grinding. So, there are certain people that are wishing and hoping for the accolades that you have and hope that they'll be able to one day have the demeanor that you have and to be able to instill that into their children. So that's what I want them to hear when they hear this podcast. So when it comes to the overall aspect of just, holding a marriage in the road, you know what I'm saying? A lot of us, and when I say us, you know what I'm talking about, we're not really good at doing that, you know what I'm saying? So what were some of the key things over the years that have allowed you to maintain the integrity of the husband and the man you are to continue to be the father you want to be for your kids?
Well, I'll be real with you. My dad was my role model. He was my Superman. And so all the way up through middle school, man, I just idolized that dude. But then by my freshman year in high school, he started drinking and became alcoholic. And I saw the ugly side.
Wow.
So when I was 9, my grandmama pulled a gun out on my granddaddy.
No.
Dude, my granddaddy, he was a big-time drunk. He was a womanizer. And he had come home, and my grandma had cooked a big old meal. And this dude then took out her big old pot of collard greens and started eating out of it. Hey, you from the country now. You don't mess up no collard greens.
You don't touch the pot. Leave alone.
So my first cousin, he ran back there and told my grandma. So she come in there fussing. Man, he slapped the hell out of her, dropped her to the floor.
Wow.
So here we are, little kids, and she came back with her little pistol. I think it was a 22. James, get your ass out of here.
Kick them out of the house.
Right there. So, that's what my dad dealt with. All right? That's what he saw. And he was the oldest. So, lo and behold, he started dealing with stress. And this is why I tell people, you can say you ain't going to be like somebody, but it's in you. See, I'm from the country. We say old country sayings. More is caught than taught. So you see more than somebody tell you.
Right.
So those things are inside of you. And so when my dad had a lot of stress, he turned to what he grew up with. So I remember, the last time he did, because he was on top of her choking. I had to grab a gun and put to his head.
Wow,
so
bro.
That was last day he stayed up in the house. And after that, at least for me, I said it won't be me.
Gotcha.
So, the best thing for some people, dude, is really looking at the hell you went through and being a man to say, I need to work on it.
Wow, bro. Wow. It's crazy, some of the things that you just told me that you saw and some of the stuff that you've been through that has kind of sort of formulated you into the man that you've become. You know what I'm saying? Because I just got through sharing and telling our other guests, that because of the absence of my father, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Like my grandma was like, this is what it is, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
But once I became a teenager, my grandma was still the same woman. It was like, I can't teach you how to be a man too.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And because I didn't necessarily have, like, I had my favorite uncle, his name was Shelly.
Okay.
All right. He was a military guy. He was in the Navy. So this again, I'm from a country town called Bruton, Alabama. You know what I'm saying? All right. So it's little country bucket, little town
That's
too.
right.
So, at the time I'm growing up, I'm used to when I see a form of currency, I'm used to seeing 1s, 5s, 20s. I ain't never seen a 50. I ain't never seen 100.
Oh, I got you.
And I seen a whole bunch of food stamps in the little book before the card where you tear them out.
Sir,
You know what
I
I'm
know what you're
saying?
talking about.
And take them to the corner
Yep.
store, whatever the case may be. And
The powdered milk,
yep.
cheese.
So my uncle would
Banana
come home.
sandwiches. I got you.
That was it. Hey, my grandma used to call it Nana sandwich.
There you go. I
Nana
got
cut
you.
the banana up with the mayonnaise on.
Yes,
there.
sir. I got you.
And so my uncle, he was in the military. You know what I'm saying? He was in the Navy, so he would come home. And whenever he would come home, it was like Christmas always arrived early when he came home. He came home to my grandma's house. He normally stayed, for a week, 2 weeks on leave or whatever. Fill the house up with groceries, everything in there. He had 2 or 3 cars sitting at my grandmama's house in the yard that he would just work on, you know what I'm saying? And when I would go these places with him, he wasn't using no 1s, 5s, 10s, and 20s. He was using plastic. So I automatically assumed it was a credit card, not knowing that banks give you debit cards.
That's right.
You see what I'm saying? So I'm running around town telling people, like, yeah, my uncle he got credit cards, he got cars. Like, this is who I want to be like when I grow up, you know what I'm saying? Because he literally had everything that I seen other people wanting, or I even seen his siblings, as in his brothers and his sisters wanting, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
So that was the one person that I knew I wanted to emulate. But the one person that instilled in me and showed me how to be a man, he taught me through respect. And that was my late Uncle Bay. You know what I'm saying? He was the one who told me, like, hey, Unc, let me get $20. All right, come over here and mow this yard.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, no, just give me 20. No, ain't nobody
Nothing
gonna
free.
give you nothing for free.
Nothing
so I
free.
need you to understand right now that anything you want, you're gonna have to work for it.
That's right.
So he always supported me in everything that I wanted to do, but he also made sure that I knew how that transaction went, because that's the universal transaction for any time you want something,
Yes, sir.
you got to do some type of work for it. So going back to what you're saying about, just the things that you go through in your adolescent years, it kind of sort of formulates like all of these things, bro, and some of the relationships and guys that I seen my mom date, you know what I'm saying? And some of the stuff that they put her through, like
That's right.
that stuff really, like, it bothered me,
Yes,
you know
sir.
what I'm saying, to the point. So, and that's why I won't do certain things to women, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'd rather exit the whole entire situation before I put myself in a situation that I seen my mom go through. So I can definitely, you know what I'm saying, coincide with what you just shared with me about these are some of the things that I seen, and these are some of the things that I went through, and that's what made me the man that I am now. And that's also the man that made me make sure that my kids don't see this
That's
and
right.
they don't go through that as
That's
well.
right.
You know what I'm saying?
And I set that up from the jump with my wife. I told her, and my wife's the youngest. She's a little pretty girl. She's look like Holly Berry to me. And these little pretty girls will drive you crazy sometimes, right?
Man, look, you preaching to the choir, boss.
But I remember one time I got angry, and I had cursed at her. I rarely cursed at her because basically of my upbringing. I remember that. And I told her that day, I said, look, the day you get me so angry that I feel like I got to hit you, we done.
Yeah.
I said, so you don't need to push me like that.
Right.
Because growing up, this is I read Will Smith's book, Will, and everybody talking about the slap dude, and it was something about, and I could relate to his story because when you grow up in a home where, dude, it was Christmas morning at 7:15 was the first day my dad beat the hell out of my mom.
Right.
I heard the screams on our carport, and I rolled back over, dude, because I couldn't believe my dad did that. And for a lot of years, man, I blamed myself because I felt like I should have did something.
Right.
And so when I read his story about his dad beating his mom, I could relate because, man, I found these girls who had drama because I wanted to be their Superman.
Come
you get
on,
what I'm
bro.
saying? And so you put yourself in these positions to be Superman with a woman who just emasculating you. And that ain't healthy, dude. Like, the girl before I dated my wife, man, she was pretty. Hazel eyes. And, dude, she cheated on me with a dude. And I went over there trying to get her back when I was in college. You hear me? Like a fool.
At what school?
At Troy, bro.
Bro, stop.
Man, frat and them used to look at me like, come on, dog. You got to let that go, man. You got to let that go.
He hit it with the slap.
Hey, he did. But, hey, that's on real, though.
I feel you.
But you know what? Part of that problem was because I'm sitting here unconsciously trying to save my mama. Let's just be real. See, most folks don't take time to look at the crap they went through.
Right.
Because that crap affected you. You can pretend like it didn't, but it did. It shapes the way you see yourself and you see how you move around with other people. It influences the people that you bring in your life. And so who you bring in your life a lot of times is your own issues. You just replaying them over and over and over again. And so for me, like one of the reasons why I became such a penny pincher and real good on finances is because my dad probably made 75% of income. He was in National Guard. He worked at the plant down there. So he made most of the money. Mm-hmm. And so my mom was a teacher, just starting off. And so we just moved from my aunt's trailer to, now I thought we had a house. I moved to a house. Mm-hmm. My wife educated me that I was in a modular home.
What the hell is a modular home?
A house on wheels, bro.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But I thought it was a house to me.
Okay. Gotcha.
So all my life, I thought we went from a trailer to a house.
Gotcha.
And, my dad bought him a new vehicle. My mom had just got a new Dynasty back then, Dodge Dynasty. So we thought we had a satellite in the yard. Man, we thought we had come up. And to go from that to when I put that gun to his head and he left. And when he left, dude, that went all the money. There was a time, man, when it was winter. It was 3 of us and my mom. All of us slept in the same room. We had to put towels around the door and an electric heater.
You know about them towels around the door.
Hey.
Block that trail.
You know it?
Man, look,
and
bro.
So when we sitting here struggling like that, I had just earned gloves to be the starting wide receiver on the football team in high school. And when I came home to come brag about my mom, when she picked me up, first thing she told me, hey, you got a job at Hardy starting this weekend. Now, here's how stuff runs. I ain't say nothing to her about starting because that would have been selfish because here we are struggling. So my 2 best friends were wide receivers. 2 best friends were going to be wide. So all 3 of us were going to be wide receivers. And the quarterback, we played Pee Wee ball together. It was our time. Mm-hmm. Here I'm at Hardy's. I ain't say one word. Not to her. Because I had to go get money to help out. Time to grow up. So when I got in college, my friend, I was president of the Sigmas there. Mm-hmm. And I was real big on finances and stuff. And they'll tell you. And all my life, man, as a result of that, I've just always been about money. Mm-hmm. Okay? I can't go back to that. There's nothing good about eating your lunch at school. That's your lunch. But see, the problem I had, my dad made good income, and my mom was proud. So we didn't get reduced lunch. We ain't had no money for no freaking lunch. And she wouldn't get reduced lunch because they had got a divorce. So we just had to figure it out. And see, that pride thing right there, that was in me too. That's something else I had to work on. See, one of the big problems me and my wife had when I went to medical school is, man, I went and got a paper route in medical school. Why? my wife was in management at was it Riches or whatever it was. So she was making good money because it was just both of us. Something about that pride, bro. I just could not let her do stuff. Like feel like she did something for me.
It's crazy what you're sharing right now, man, because and for those of you that are listening, if you're paying attention to what's being said, you're getting the overall formula, and because it's a formula, I'm calling it a formula because it's different variables that's giving you the end product of the type of father that he is, the type of entrepreneur, businessman. Like these things or what worked either together or against itself to produce the product that you see before you on the camera or that you're listening to on the podcast right now. And this is what's crazy, man. I literally grew up kind of sort of the same way. Like I didn't grow up as in I had to go get no job, but I wanted to work because I wanted to have my own money because I knew my mom was trying to make sure ends meet, just period. So I just wanted to have my own.
Right. I
My mom got me. I was working at Dairy Queen at the age of 14, bro, getting paid under the table because I ain't had no workers permit. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I got you.
You know what I'm saying? So and it was because like all of my peers at school was wearing J's, and I never cared about J's.
Right.
I got some on now. They're literally old.
Right.
But this is like the third or fourth time I done wore them. I just bought them because everybody else feel like if you ain't wearing them, you broke.
Well, see,
and so that was like the first initial thing, like that kind of sort of had me on the route that I am and that I am now. I'm like you with my pride, like, you know what I'm saying? I remember moving up here to Birmingham, bro. A lot of people don't know, bro. When I first moved up here, I lived in an apartment for 6 months, Demel, with no lights on because I didn't want to tell nobody that I ain't had no lights and I didn't want to ask for no help. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I got you.
You know, so it's like when I was growing up, the type of people that I seen my mom hanging around, the type of people that she was dating and then their friends, you know what I'm saying? I was seeing one type of lifestyle.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But quote unquote, these are the people that was on, or these are the people that had it, or whatever the case may be. So I'm also now being governed in a state where my mindset is if I don't have these things, I can't have the things that come attached to it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So and that overall thing of what you're saying has affected me now, I think in a negative way, because I don't have a balance when it comes to my work life and my relationship life because of the fact of what you just said, because I don't want to be the way that it was when I was growing up.
That's right.
Like I've said this a million times on this platform. I'm not speaking against how I was raised and the people who raised me because they done the best that they could do. I never went without eating. I never went without no clothes or shoes or whatever the case may be. But knowing what I know now, being an educated black man, I still know that was fucking poverty, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
So at the end of the day, my work ethic comes above everything, man, because I don't want to be that person or live that type of lifestyle. And for some reason, bro, I can't turn it off. You know what I'm saying?
You're going to have to learn to, because and I'm the pot calling the kettle black here, bro. There was a time when I finished, like I told you, I worked the paper route and I was in medical school.
Right.
So when I got out my first year, you can moonlight, which is make a little extra money. So I remember I was moonlighting at this place called St. Vincent's. And, man, I got a $10,000 check. Dude, I had never in my life seen a $10,000 check, ever. And I'm sitting here like, that's real. Like, for real. And something in me said in that moment, okay, I need to make as much of this as I can. Dude, there was times when I was staying in Calera now. Mm-hmm. I can't remember how I got from St. Vincent's to home. There were days I was going on like 2 hours of sleep, if that. I was moonlighting at St. Vincent's, the VA, Cooper Green. Man, you name it. I was still in residency, which meant I worked a regular job, 8 to whatever to 4:30. Mm-hmm. So when I got off my rounds, if I wasn't on call at my regular job, which was every 4 days, I was on call at a hospital. So I was on call all the time. Now, I worked so much that I'm married with a kid, with 2 kids. Mm-hmm. I paid off my medical student loan within 5 years.
For real?
5 years, dude.
No school debt.
No school debt. So when you say you worked hard, I get it. And it was hard. But the thing is, that's horrible. Dude, you know what kind of strain I put on my body?
We ain't gonna
You know
talk
what
about
kind of
that.
strain I put on my marriage?
That's what I'm talking about.
In that regard, like, you know, my wife's like, you gonna kill yourself? And I said, no, I ain't killing myself. I just want to make sure we's taken care of. I said,
That's all we want.
I said, and you know, I got a $2 million life insurance policy as soon as I started paying. I said, because if I die, I want to make sure none of y'all have to struggle.
Man, how you get $2 million? You don't smoke or none of that, do you?
No, bro.
That's how you got it. They ain't giving $2 million to no smoker, bro. That shit dead.
But the thing is, you know, in my mind, because of the way things happened to me growing up, dude, when I got to medical school and I started hearing people talking about Dave, I was doing a paper route and I was listening to talk radio. And so at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, all them conservatives and stuff, that's all that's on the radio. Mm-hmm. And I flipped on the channel, Dave Ramsey was on. And Clark Howard. I know these sound crazy names, but they were talking about finances and managing yourself. Dude, I started reading every book I could on finances. I was like, you know what? I told my wife, I said, look, I'm not being in debt. I said, now, we got a kid. This is where I think we need to do.
All right.
What's your thoughts? So one of the things I tell people, you know, especially when it comes to marriage and relationships, man, you better do a lot of talking about fiscal issues before you talk about I do. Because if y'all ain't lined up financially, bro, 90% of divorces is due to financial issues.
Financial issues. That's what Roller Coaster got at me about. You know Roller Coaster, right?
No.
You don't know Roller Coaster?
No, bro.
Dang. I don't even know Roller Coaster real name to call his real name. Roller Coaster, he frat, man.
From Troy?
I think he, man, what's Roller Coaster name, bro? Dang, I can't think of Roller Coaster.
Didn't I just tell you I was going like 2 hours of sleep for about 8
yeah,
to 10 years?
but Roller Coaster, he ain't too. He behind you, but he ain't too far behind you where you shouldn't know who he is.
See, here's the thing: when I left Troy, I went to medical school.
Right.
So I
didn't have no.
Bro.
Okay. Well, Roller Coaster was the person who I was calling and get financial advice once I start getting in depth with my business and learning about business credits and DUNS numbers and all this other stuff. And, you know, I'm trying to build my company up the right way.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I want it to be accessible to whatever's out there for a business. If it's something that I want or I feel like it's going to be tangible to my company, I want to be able to, you know, grab a hold of it.
Gotcha.
So I would talk to him a lot about different things. And when I got engaged, he was the one who told me, he was like, do you have a prenup?
Yeah.
And I was like, nah. I said, I made mention of it in a joking manner, but
Right.
my fiance was like, she ain't signing no damn prenup. And he was like, if you was my son,
Yeah.
and you told me that she wouldn't sign a prenup, I would tell you don't marry her. He said, and I'm just keeping. He was like, I'm just keeping it a buck. And
Right.
and I'm saying all that with what you're saying because those are things in real life that people. I know I didn't marry to get divorced.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like I don't think nobody's intentionally marrying to get divorced. That's not in the plan. But at the end of the day, going back to where we came from, our work ethic and what we built, I don't think that I've built and done everything that I've done to allow somebody that I marry later on in life to take it away from me just because we got married. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's on you. I get it. But for me, that same growing up situation, I saw the flip side. My dad had all the money. My mom told me, dude, that my dad convinced her to use his lawyer for the divorce. She got nothing.
I ain't like that though, man.
Dude. And so from seeing the way I grew up, and this is where how past affects people. I understand what you're saying. I'm not disagreeing with you on the prenup.
Right.
But that just wasn't my journey. My journey was, look, do we agree on how we're going to handle these finances? What's your goals as far as how we're going to raise these kids?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, we went to marriage counseling. We had to sit down and we went through, there's a really good book called 7 Principles for Making Marriage Work.
Okay.
We worked through that book. And we worked through with counseling as well. So what are the goals? What are your 5-year goals? What are your 10-year goals? And that's just not goals as in finances. But where do you see yourself?
Right.
You get what I'm saying? Like,
right.
Many people fall in love, but really they fall in lust. Because I ain't gonna lie to you, I didn't know her. What I saw is what attracted me to her. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I'm just being real. Like, she looked good as hell when I saw her.
Right.
Now, when I got to talk to her, I got to learn some more stuff about her.
Right.
And when I went to meet her parents, see, that's that old-fashioned stuff. When I went to meet her parents and I watched how her mother and her father interacted, I'm like, okay, that's what I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But most folks don't do that nowadays.
Yeah, bro.
They ain't doing that.
Yeah.
And I know that's old-fashioned, but dude, I'm just telling you.
The dating seems scary nowadays, bro. I mean, it's a whole conversation within itself. I mean, I've had some different age group females and males inside of my podcast, and we just talked. And some of the stuff that I've heard come from the younger people that are dating right now is extremely crazy, bro. But I mean, the morals, the ethics, and the principles of courting, are no longer in play in 2022, bro. I mean, it's everybody's creating their own playing fields, and it's either you play my game or you don't play at all type deal, and it doesn't exist within a standard. With that being said, you know what I'm saying, and being that we're talking about fathers, and like so. Do you think, ideally, if you just had to throw it out there, do you think that your daughters are going to ensure that when they're dating somebody that resembles their father?
Well, I'll tell you what, my youngest, I don't want to put her on blast, but she was dating this dude, nice dude, and he was an athlete. But the more she got to know him, when she came home one day, she said, I can't talk to him. I said, why? She's like, he ain't smart and he ain't going nowhere.
Wow.
I was like, so that's good.
I mean, at least she caught her early, bro.
It's not that, and here's the thing where I think people are missing out on. You know, in our culture, back in the day, about 85% of kids were brought up in two-parent homes. Now, you look about 73% in single-parent homes. Single parent. Mothers are raising most of our kids. That's it. So what is the man in that home speaking life into? You know, if you look at stats, when you think about two-parent home situation, this is being real. I came out of a broken home, so I'm not saying, I'm just being real.
All right, talk, bro.
If we bring a room full of kids in here that's got mental illness, 9 out of 10 of them going to come from a single or disruptive home. 9 out of 10 kids with mental issues come out of a single or broken home. When you talk about kids with teen pregnancy, 7 out of 10, single homes. Issues with juvenile crime, 7 out of 10, single or broken homes. Drug problems, 7 out of 10, single or broken homes. So I'm not saying marriage is some panacea to fix everything, but what I am saying, a good marriage can fix a whole lot. And a good father being in that home, kids who have fathers that are active. And I'm not, sometimes you can't help if you get a divorce. Nobody's arguing that. But an active father in the kid's home, in that kid's life, decreases the chances of problems with the law, problems with drugs, problems with teen pregnancy. So that's what kids need, man. They need fathers.
Yeah.
And you talk that's really 2 reasons why I want to do the show. One, because it's you, because I know you from Troy and I've talked to you. The second was because you talk about something that's serious to me. Because one of the reasons why I do my volunteering program and stuff, because I feel like, Martin Luther King Jr. said the highest calling is when you understand that it's not about you. It's about what you're doing for those that are around you.
Right.
And so my kid's about to be grown. So my next phase is, okay, what can I do in my community? Because I see it as my community. You know what I'm saying? And so when I go here and I tutor, and I'm trying to work with a friend now, and hopefully next time I come down, we can talk about, but he's got something really in the works that we're going to try and do for kids who, come from broken homes, from poor areas, to try to have a bridge to help these kids get on the right track.
Well, you can already consider it for an invitation to be extended back. So whenever y'all ready to come back and sit down and talk about that, we can definitely utilize the platform to talk about that.
So for me, fathers, man, that's dudes just coming from what I dealt with and watched. I think it's vital because our kids, man, they dying in these streets because there's no fathers around. So for those that are fathers, man, I'm telling you, speak life into your daughters, man. Your daughters, you want to live such a life in front of your daughters that they want somebody like you. My kids talk about me being a nerd because they see me read all the time. I'm good with that. Like I tell them, hey, how do you think you getting the stuff you want?
But you probably one of the smartest people that I know. And I know that. So when I got into this thing called Phi Beta Sigma, bro, the difference between me and my LBs was how I wanted to move within the fraternity.
Gotcha.
And when the older cats started seeing that in me, that's what really laid the way for me. That's what allowed the gateway for me to know who Demel is.
Gotcha.
That's what allowed for me to know who Ricky Williams is, who Pooh is,
Right.
you know, R.I.P. rest in heaven,
Yeah,
and to Jug,
Jug,
who
exactly.
Jug was. Like, my LBs don't know y'all.
Gotcha.
And it's just because their mindset wasn't the same that I was.
Right.
But it still goes back to the same thing that I told you about when I had an absent father figure.
Right.
So naturally, I was always trying to put myself in situations where there was somebody older than me
Right.
that could influence me, that I could take to, that could teach me something.
Gotcha.
I've always done that. I was that way when I got to college.
Right.
I was that way when I was in the military. Like, you know, in the military, you're supposed to fraternize with people who are higher ranked than you. I hung out with my staff sergeant.
Right.
Because he was the father figure to me when I was in the military.
That's right.
He was going to keep me straight. He was going to let me know what it was. He knew I wasn't 21. I wanted to drink. You know what I'm saying? Okay, you come over here to the house and drink. This is where you're going to stay at.
That's right.
I knew his wife. I knew his kids. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was the person that I spent the majority of my time with. You know what I'm saying? And when I got to college, you know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna say no father figures, but I hung around. They weren't necessarily older than me because by the time I got to college,
Right.
I was already of age. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? I got to college after the military.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So is all of those things that you're saying about, you know what I'm saying, having that person present, bro, like the access, man. The access. We just, the access is everything. Having access to a dad, having access to, if he's not your biological father,
That's
but
right.
a father figure that you know is going to be there. You know what I'm
right.
saying? I remember at one point in time, every time I was calling you when I was going through and I really needed something, man, you was on the road, gone somewhere doing something because you wasn't going to allow your girl to look up in the stands and not see you, bro.
No, sir.
You know what I'm saying? Like, all of those things make a difference, bro. So, like, for all the dads that are hearing that, even like for me, like I tell people, I don't have any kids, you know what I'm
Right.
saying? But I know that feeling of wanting to feel like you belong or you have or somebody cares about what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? I remember making up lies just because I used to want my mama attention. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just want you to, I want you to make me feel like you care.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, is bro, like that's all this stuff that you're bringing up is just crazy. You know what I'm saying? Because I didn't know that's what you was gonna come in here and that's what you was gonna give us. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
But yes, I know you don't know none of the young guys, but guy named Eddie, man. I'll be forgetting Eddie's last name, but Eddie's reminds me a lot of you.
Okay.
So Eddie is a young cat and he reads a lot. He's extremely intelligent. You wouldn't know it by looking at him.
Right.
But he's extremely intelligent. And he was the one who one day told me about what the product of absent fathers
Yes, sir.
and how the government assists with absent fathers
That's right.
is giving this different product of different type of kids. Case in point, really point the finger at the males nowadays.
That's right.
How they're growing up, what they're turning into, what they're believing
Yeah.
in, and how they're carrying themselves.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So when I heard him say that, it was something I wanted to look at and read up on because I was like, I've never thought about it like that. I mean, because he basically took the projects, bro,
Yeah.
and broke it down to me. And this kid is like 10, maybe 12 years younger than I am.
Yeah.
And like literally was like, so when you got this and you got that, and then this is happening, and then this right here is happening, and then this ain't supposed to be happening, this person can't go there, this. So this is what's happening to this kid. Like, this
That's
kid
right.
ain't seeing no male figures, point blank,
No.
period, in his life.
No.
And then so of course this is going to be the end result
right.
of what you're going to get from him.
That's right.
So
And sad thing is, there was a report done. It's called the Moynihan Report, Moynihan. It was done back in the mid '60s.
Mm-hmm.
It was a Jewish guy. He was single, and he had come up out of a bad situation. And what he had noticed is, in the 1950s. Now here's the crazy people. Most people think that you see Roots, you see kids being snatched from their parents.
Right.
You think they get shipped away. That's not true. The Freedmen's Bureau did stats. 68% of kids, black kids in slavery, were with both of their parents. Now, then you go to Jim Crow, you go through segregation. Guess what? We had the highest rate of kids being with parents all the way up into the 1950s. Now, think about that. You got Jim Crow. You got Billie Holiday. You like music. Billie Holiday did a song called Strange Fruit.
mm-hmm.
And that's about us being hung from trees. So you got that going on, and blacks, and they're raising their kids together, they're sticking together. Then you get situations where we get the New Deal, we get feminism, you get the feel-good society we got in the 60s. And, bro, I'm just being real with you. Moynihan was like, how do you go from 85% of kids being two-parent homes, now we got 31% of these jokers being in single-parent homes. It's doubled in like 8 years. So he came up with this report, and people can Google and look it up. He warned back in the mid-'60s that if something wasn't done to restore the black family, that all the gains we had made were going to be lost. All. And guess what? They have been pretty much lost.
That's crazy, man.
So this is something that was commissioned by our government in the 1960s. And now the thing why it's becoming a big national thing, because right now in the white community, they're starting to see the same problems we had in the 60s. They've got increasing numbers of their kids being brought up in single-parent homes. So the same problems we're having, they're starting to have. And here's the thing that why this is really important to me. You know, when I went to medical school and I was in residency, in 2001, you never heard of blacks committing suicide, bro. It just was an unheard of thing. It was mostly white people. In 1950s, when all that crap was going on, we was at the bottom as far as suicide. In the last 20 years, now when a young black kid comes in, a young black kid is twice as likely to commit suicide. There's a report that was commissioned. It's called Ring the Alarm, the Crisis of Suicide in Black Youth. Mm-hmm. So somebody can Google that. It's scary. Suicide is just skyrocketing in our community with kids. Young adults, black males in particular, we're one of the fastest growing groups as far as suicide as well. Yeah. Us.
Man, I'm going to tell you something that's going to be crazy, bro. I was about, I was 4 when I was in kindergarten. So by the time I got to first grade, I was 5, second grade, 6, third grade, 7. At 7 years old, bro, I wanted to kill myself.
I can. You just told me a lot of stuff that was happening to you.
Like literally, like my grandma used to beat my ass because I didn't know nobody else to talk to about it, and that was my comfort space was my grandma.
Wow.
And I would literally tell her like, bro, like I just wanted it to all go away.
I got you.
Like I want to deal with it. You know what I'm saying? And this is the first time that I've ever admitted. Like it's a lot of stuff I want to talk about that I've literally been saving for my little bio, little thing I want to do to tell people about my story and how I got to where I am now. But man, and this is why I hate Brewton, Alabama. Like my childhood there was terrible.
Oh, I got you. I grew up in Jackson, so I know about.
Like completely terrible. I mean, from being picked on every day, not because I was the person to pick on, but just because I was something to do.
I got you.
You know what I'm saying? Like being jumped on in my front yard for the amusement of the cool kids across the street. Oh. You know what I'm saying? From not having a decent pair of shoes, sometimes going back to school, so I had to get a toothbrush and a rag to clean up the pair of shoes that I had, so they at least look clean when I went back to school. You know what I'm saying? Like girls not liking me at all, point blank. Period. Wouldn't fool with me. Whole nine. Like it was just a lot of little stuff, and I thought this stuff was normal. I was thinking this is stuff that you're supposed to deal with. You know what I'm saying? As a kid, this is what you deal with. I didn't understand what bullying was and how the mental disturbing things that were happening. I didn't understand what they were until I started seeing movies and people putting like the anti-bully awareness stuff out there. That's when it dawned on me as an adult that this stuff was not supposed to be going on and not supposed to be happening, man.
Well, here's the thing what people don't realize. Most of how we see the world is shaped by the time we're 2 or 3. See, people don't realize that. Like when you were in your mother's womb, whatever issues she was got in her life, because you talked about some of the stuff you dealt with, those things crossed up with the sin and they started affecting you. So there's been studies done. Like, in fact, I think it was in Chernobyl where it was when they had a whole lot of deaths and they didn't have enough parents and all these kids were being in orphanages and stuff. So they thought that, well, they would just get the nurses to go around and just give the bottles to the kids. They didn't have time to pick them up and hold them. Most of those kids died. See, attachment is powerful. And we just talked about it. 73% of black kids coming up in a single-parent home. Many of us, those black mothers got about 3.4 kids. So when a kid is born, that kid needs attention. Mm-hmm. If that kid ain't getting attention, that kid's needs aren't being met. See, when when people breastfeed their kids, what people don't realize, when you hold a baby tight, that swallowing motion you're doing, that's reminding them of being in their placenta. It's their comfort zone. And then when you breastfeed a kid, it's not just for the infection part, but it releases oxytocin. Oxytocin is the cool, make you feel good, relax hormone. So when babies don't get breastfed, they're not being held like they should be held. That creates problems within that kid. There's a study done. It's called the Adverse Child Experience Study. And they did this with women who was at this eating disorder clinic in San Diego. They were way overweight. And so they would help them lose all this weight, and then they would leave and they would come back, and they had gained more than the weight they had lost. And they were trying to figure out, what in the world is going on? We taught you all this stuff. What was going on? When they lost all that weight, they started getting hit on. See, a lot of women, when they studies, when they had issues, a lot of them were putting on weight because that was the way they can become invisible. Because a lot of them had been touched when they were little kids.
Wow.
So 68% of people who have severe obesity, that also had issues with anxiety, 68% now, anxiety, depression, high blood pressure, came from issues in their childhood of abuse. You know what the number one abuse problem was? It wasn't sexual. It was emotional. Stuff you're talking about.
Wow, bro. Wow.
So when you think about that, and here's even what's scary about that. When you talk about suicide, if you check off 7 items on the Adverse Child Experience Study, 7 items, if you check off 7, your chances of suicide increase by 3,144%. 7 items for a kid, trauma, with the number one being emotional, verbal abuse, rejection, and abandonment. So, when you wonder why a 7-year-old would have those issues, there's no wonder. When you hear their story is telling you why. See, when we look in these schools now, we look at these, I think black kids in schools that had a 19% difference. 9% of black males in school had this problems with getting in trouble, right? President Obama made a big deal, him and Eric Holder. They were trying to say it was racism. Mm-hmm. And so they was missing the mark. See, when people want to label everything as racism, what you're really missing is the fact that the problems that these kids were having, they were like canaries in the coal mine. They got issues at home. They got home problems. And we want to sit up here and either punish them, which is what conservatives do. You want to punish them. And, you want to punish them what conservatives want to do. They need to be expelled. You need tough love. No, they don't. They need love. They need somebody to listen to them.
Right.
And you don't need to just blame it on racism either, because they got issues in their home. And if we don't fix it, guess what? 8 out of 10 adults in prison came out of broken homes, bruh. They came from issues in their home. And so we want to sit up here and label stuff. No, we need to treat stuff. We need to be more proactive. See, this is why I thought this was good, because we need men to step in the gap and be fathers to some of these fatherless kids. Join mentor programs. One of the program that I work with this guy's named Jason Williams. It's called AspireMovement.org. It's a mentor program. Mm-hmm. But there's some mentor programs here in Birmingham. But if we don't help these boys, what do you think these boys are going to become? Who teaches them how to be men? Women? The single woman who's mad because she messed with a dude who ain't no good. So now all she doing is dogging out that man to that boy. When you dog out that man to that boy, what is that boy going to become one day? You see what I'm saying? Like, what do you think you're doing when you dogging out every man to that boy? What do you think you're doing to him? And that's what we're dealing with, man. We got a lot of men who are fathers who still hurting, man. They hurting. And they ain't dealt with their own trauma. And see, unfortunately, that trauma is dealing with them.
Wow.
And I'm speaking of that as somebody, since you brought up something, I have autoimmune disease. And for about 5 years, I was in braces. I had to wear braces because that's why I walk funny. And the funny thing is, one of the things I joke about is when my dad left, he left, and like for 5 years, dude, I told my wife that my dad was dead, because he was dead to me. So for 5 years, dude, I ain't say nothing. Nobody ever said nothing about my dad, because one of the hardest things, man, is when you're in a small town, mm-hmm. and everybody know your business. but you can't hide.
Wow.
And so, like I told her, 5 years, man. And what broke me was I came to realize, man, I was having problems with blood pressure, migraines. And even though I was pushing myself to make it, I was dying on the inside because I still had all that anger and that pain.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so, and then, you know, I love my mom, but she was angry at him. So she was saying stuff, and that was hitting me too.
Wow.
And so when I hear your story, man, I get it.
Yeah.
Man, that's a lot of men, though. And the problem is, how many of us are really looking in the mirror and saying, man, let me deal with this?
Yeah.
But you know what most of us do? We work our ass off.
So we ain't got to deal with it.
You get me?
Yep. So you got to think about it.
Yeah.
That's how I deal with a lot of my problems. When I'm going through, I try to find something that's going to keep me extremely busy, or I just that hopefully one day it'll just work itself out so I don't have to pay it any attention.
Yeah, but it's killing you in the process.
Yeah, you're right.
So I was in braces for 5 years, man, and there was a period, man, I'm just being real with you. Like, I'm talking about in recent years, like, I was like, before I become dependent, before I get to a place where somebody got to wipe my butt, I'm taking myself out.
Wow.
I already plotted it, dude. I'm like, ain't no way I'm going to ever have to let somebody do something for me. You know where that stemmed from? That crap growing up. The thought of being dependent on somebody scared the hell out of me. Scared the hell out of me. That's a problem, man. How am I in a marriage for 23 years and the thought of my wife having to help me out? Now, as she reminded me, like, she stopped working when we had our second kid. She been at the house, taking care of the family. Anything she wanted, guess what? I'm good with it. And now I got a condition, I'm in braces, and we set financially, and she's like, but you don't want me to help you?
Wow. Wow, Demel. And we gon', you know what? We gonna have to, I ain't even think this is gonna go like this, bro. That's, we gonna go back and we gonna give y'all a quick summary. That's what we gonna do, so we can wrap it up, because my mind is getting a little blown at this point, and I think it's simply getting blown, if you're listening or you're watching, is because of the likelihood of what you heard statistically that's across the board of common things that us as black men, and now even for our white brothers out there that bump with us and cool with us, are starting to deal with the same exact things. And I think what you're going to get from this Father's Day segment is simply this. We, of course, have to press, because that's what we're geared to do. We have to press. But along that press and trying to make some time for yourself, that time that you're making for yourself needs to be time that you're making to heal yourself and deal with things that's going to make you better. And that's what I've gotten from what you shared with us on the night. So what we're going to do at the end of these, man, I want you to just give 3 gems to any inspirational thing that you can give a married father, single father, any type of father out there, either whether they're biological father or not, anything that you can look at that camera right there and just give them that's going to be inspirational, that's going to be uplifting and pick them up when they hear this podcast in the month of June. You know what I'm saying? For our podcast session, man, I want you to go ahead and give that to them right now. All
right, number 1 is you got to be honest with yourself. You know, bro, everybody's been hurt. Like I just shared with him, he shared with me. So when you're honest, really work on those issues that are bothering you. The second thing is, don't be ashamed. You know, if you need help, speak up about it. You know, find books. I've read any issue I got, I read books to address it. And the third thing, find you another man. Iron sharpens iron. Find you another man that's going to help you where you weak.
There you have it, man. Dr. Demel Cole has stopped through, man, and blessed us and gave us some gems, man. And we talked about fatherhood, definitely, but we talked about fatherhood from the perspective of us men dealing with the things that we need to deal with, and that's ultimately going to make you a better person and a better guy, man. So I want to thank you again for stopping through, man, and blessing us, man. And if you're looking at us right now on YouTube, make sure that you hit the like button, make sure you hit the subscribe button, make sure that you leave some comments, man. Dr. Demel Coleman told you what kind of doctor he is. So I don't know if you're going to be able to go see him until you hit about 86 or 87 or something like that right there. But if you're listening to us on the podcast right now, man, make sure that you hit the follow button, man. We need that download. We need that support. But in the meantime, between time, thank you for listening and thank you for the continued support. Until next time, man, I'm your boy LaCheston, and y'all already know what it is. Peace.